Hello, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube live. My name is Benga Adeyemo. I will be sharing my screen now before we dive into the topic of today. Just give me minutes. Okay, I'll be sharing my slide to introduce myself to you. So once again, my name is Benga Adeyemo. I'm a senior data analyst, a Microsoft certified trainer. I'm also a Microsoft certified Power BI data analyst. I currently lead two data communities, the Winnipeg Power Platform user group, and also Data Jobs Niger. I have 5 years of work experience, more than 5 years of work experience. I started data, at a time when data wasn't that too popular back in Nigeria, before it started becoming something that people were, opting for, people were pivoting into, right? I'm a technical trainer. Even before I became an MCT, I've been training people on Power BI, Excel, and SQL for some years now, and I'll be able to say I can say confidently that I've trained more than 3,000 people, both paid and community trainings. Right? I've worked across different sectors. I'm currently working in healthcare. I've worked in logistics, in manufacturing, and in retail. Um, Based on my previous work experiences, I've been able to deploy a lot of solutions, especially Power BI is my focus area. And but I have some, other skills in Excel, SQL, Power Platform in general, Microsoft Fabric, SSIS for scheduling packages and creating data warehouses, and and also Power Automate. Interesting. So those are my core areas. So thank you very much, guys, for joining. I really appreciate it. Moving on. Um, the reason why we are here today is because we want to learn about version control. Right? Version control is something that is very interesting and it's important for beginners to actually understand what it is. So there is a lot of what inspired me to to bring up today's section is because there's in this tech world, there's a lot of buzzwords that from with the way they sound, they might look like very complex concepts, right? But if you have somebody who can actually break it down in a very simple way that even the layman will understand what it means, right? And version control is one of those topics that might sound complex, even from the way you hear it. Version control, you might be like, what does this even mean? What is version control? What is it all about? And I can tell you that it's something very interesting. It's something that you are knowledgeable about. Even when you go for those interviews and you talk about it to your hiring manager, I mean, it's something that they'll be interested in for companies that are that are tech savvy. It's something that I'm sure that they do. And I believe that the way the tech world is going and the way with the advent of AI and the rest, it's very important for someone to keep updating himself or herself of the latest trend and latest update. Now, version control is not something that is new. The word version control and the concept of version control is something that has been in existence even since the 1980s, right? It might not be as robust and developed as now that we have the likes of Git, the likes of GitHub and all of those tools, right? Version control, I would say for Git, if you look at the history of version control, you will see that Git started gaining ground or started developing in early 2000s. So before the advent of version control in the 80s and the 90s, it used to be that people make changes manually, right? It's not, there's no automation like the way we have it now. With the way we have, cloud or remote repos like the Azure DevOps Repo and all of those things. So it's something interesting. It's something fun. We are all here to learn together. Uh, I would like you guys to use the comment section very well. I would like to see your comments. I would like to see your questions. There's one part of my system here that I opened the comment section. So I will be seeing your comments. If you have any questions, please drop it on the comment section. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting today. And I will try to break down these terminologies, and also do a little demo with you so that you can see how version control is and how version control works. And what is even version control itself? We are here to break it down, right? To make it very simple for you to understand. Version control is a way we track changes, right? So we make so let's take a look at software developers, or let's say mobile app developers. Those guys create softwares, right? They create applications, right, that we use on our mobile phones and the rest. Now, when they create applications, right, there's something called development, testing, and production, right? So they create the application in the development stage, or let me say in the development workspace. They have that is where they create the application. They do all of the creation stuff there. Now, the testing stage is now when they select maybe specific users, maybe within an organization, to test out the features of the application to see whether it meets the requirements, also based on the organization's goal and objective, right? And based on their business model, for example, right? Now, a company like Amazon, a company like, like Amazon, this is Amazon is a good example. They have an e-commerce application you can go to, you can make an order, you can do all of those things. There are people at the back end who built those mobile applications, right? And those even web applications that you use to, make an order, right? You go there, you buy your stuff, it gets delivered to you, and you pay, right? So all those interfaces, all those, landing pages, you click on this, it gets to this page. You buy something, it takes to the payments page. All of those things were built by, software engineers. Now, at every stage of the application, there will always be an update. For people like me that I'm using Samsung, I'm using Android. You will always see your Play Store tell you to update the application, right? To tell you it's time for you to update. Or there are some settings that you do that would probably even automatically update your application, right? So from time to time, there's always an update. For those that are Power BI analysts here or Power BI developers on this call, we've seen that Microsoft usually dish out different updates on Power BI every month, right? Now, version control is being able to keep track of those changes. In case something happens, you will be able to revert back to the previous stage, something like that. So imagine for every application, there was update 1, update 2, update 3, update 4, update 5, 6 to 10, right? So for every update, it shows that there was a change. Maybe something was being improved on, or something was removed. Maybe a new feature was added. Maybe an existing feature was probably deactivated because of a new improvement in some other area. So there are different reasons why companies need to keep track of the kind of changes, not just commit these changes, but also be able to keep track of when and who and how were those changes committed, right? So when those changes are made in the development stage, it moves to testing, where some people in the organization test it out to see that it meets the requirements of the business before deploying it to production, when people now get to see and update the application for them to get the latest feature. So I'm just giving this background so that you have a very clear understanding of what I'm about to talk to you about today. So this section is for beginners, but if you know that you're not a beginner, you're already a pro, you can also join, you can make contributions, you can also say hello or say hi in the chat section. So version control, as I said earlier, is that way we track changes, to our file, especially our project file. So when I'm talking today, I'm going to be talking more in the context of an organization that has a team of developers that are building different solutions that we are applying version control on those solutions, right? Now, with version control, you can go back to a previous version if something breaks, something happens, right? You can see who made the change and not just who made it and when the change. In fact, you will see the name of the person, you will see the time that that change happened, right? Now, with version control, you can work with a team without overwriting each other's work. So it means that me as a Power BI developer, you as a Power BI developer, we can be working on the same, we can be working in the same project, right? And we can be making changes, maybe adding more measures, adding more report pages, and doing stuff. And at every point in time, we can know who made this change, who made that change, and at what time was the time and the date of that change. Everything is going to be tracked, right? So I want you to think of version control like, in Microsoft Word, especially if you are using Microsoft Word, right? You go there, type in stuff, you save, you probably reopen it again, and you do some other stuff in there, you save it again. So at every time you are going to that Microsoft Word to make changes, to add stuff, to remove stuff, to do stuffs on it, there's a way you can track and go back to previous, especially if you're using Microsoft Word online, right? You can just go back and always see the times and the dates you made those changes. So just think of version control as those changes that you make, you make to you apply to your Microsoft Word documents. Okay, let's go ahead. Now, why is it important for you as a tech person or as a Power BI developer or an engineer or whatever, or as a beginner in tech to know about version control? It's important because it helps you stay organized. It helps you, it's a way of organizing your work, especially if you're working in a team and you guys are working on different parts of a project, right? It protects you from mistake. Now, I'm going to show you something that has to do with protecting the branch. I'm still going to explain more on that. What do we mean by protecting branch? It means that when maybe when developer A makes a commit or commit a change, another developer commit a change, right? There's something called a pull request. It means that before that change can actually be committed to the main branch, there will be somebody that is going to probably approve it so that there will not be, this is just to avoid conflict and to stay organized, especially when you're working with a team. Now, another good thing about version control, why it's important for you to know it, is because it helps you collaborate with other people, like other developers in your team, right? Let's go ahead. Now, let's break down some of these concepts that might look like what is this or what is that. Now, let's start with Git. I know you might have been hearing Git, but you might probably do not really know what Git is about. Or some people are even confusing Git and GitHub, and maybe they think it's the same, right? Git and GitHub are two different things. We are going to explain the two so that you really understand. Now, Git is a tool, right? Git is a tool that you use to do version control. So Git is that tool that makes version control possible, right? That makes version control to be what? To be possible. Now, Git keeps track of all the changes that you make to your files, right? And you can go back, you can compare, you can even share different versions with other people. So, for example, I probably create, some project files in my local repository, and I can publish that to a remote or a cloud repository, right? And other developers in my team that are working on the same project can clone that repository on their own local repo, right? They can clone it on their own local repo. So they have a copy of the recent project file that I have in my local repo that has been pushed to my cloud repo, right? So Git is that tool that makes version control to be possible. Git is that tool that makes version control possible, right? Now, imagine, or let me see, I wanted you to think of Git as a time machine, right? That keeps track of this was when you did this was when you added this was when you removed this was when you multiplied this. No, all those changes that happens is helping you to keep. So think of Git as a time machine that keeps track of everything at every point in time that happens to your project files. Okay. Now, what is GitHub? GitHub is a website, right? It's a website where you can store your Git project files online, right? It's a cloud, we call it cloud repository, right? And the good thing about cloud repository, no, when you save your project files on your own local computer, people might not be able to access that because it's on your own local, folder. But when you publish it to a cloud repository like GitHub, you'll be able to collaborate. People can go there, make changes, add in new stuff, and you can also fetch and pull down to your own local repo, and you're also going to have the updated, you have the updated files the way it is based on changes that have been made in the cloud repo, right? So it is something that is interesting. It's something that is very important. GitHub is that cloud, provides you that cloud repository. It's a website where you can store your project files online, right? And people can collaborate together, right? And you can even track your code history. So think of GitHub as that, the way you have your file stored in your system. Now think of storing your file on OneDrive or the SharePoint, right? So think of it that way. See GitHub as that OneDrive that or that SharePoint or that Google Drive that that you store stuff inside it, right? You store them to save them in case something happens to maybe your mobile phone or your local computer. You can always go back to your cloud storage to see. So see GitHub as cloud uh, that cloud platform where you can store your project files online, right? Okay, let's move on. Now, what is GitHub Desktop? No, I told you about GitHub. That GitHub is the cloud repo, the website where you can store your project files online. Now, what is GitHub Desktop? GitHub Desktop is an app that gives you a simple visual way to use Git, right? Git is the one at the back end that is helping, it is that time machine that is helping you to keep track of those changes, right? It's the one working at the back end, right? But the interface that you are using to actually apply or use Git is the GitHub Desktop, right? For you to, do Git stuff like your commit, your push, your pull, your fetch, and all of those things. It is GitHub that give you that interface for you to be able to make those changes to your project files, right? So with GitHub Desktop, right, you don't even need to have prior knowledge of maybe coding in JSON or maybe typing any kind of command in PowerShell, a lot of those things, right? It's a simple to use tool, right? That we just click, and just clicking and clicking here and there, you can do stuff, right? So for beginners, there's something called commit, push, pull, and I'm going to still explain further what all of those things, what they mean, and something called branches, right? I'm still going to explain all of those things. Now, there's something called PBIP, Power BI project file. We are all used to PBIX. That is the file type for Power BI. When you create Power BI reports in desktop, on Power BI desktop, and you save that is a PBIX file. Something called PBIP file format rather. PBIP file format is the full meaning is Power BI project file, right? Now, it's a new way of saving your Power BI projects file in a way that is going to be readable, and it also be easy for you to separate, different parts of your Power BI project or your Power BI file, right? So when you save your Power BI file in PBIP format, now you see something like .json, .txt, right? Something like you see for your data model is something like model.beam, right? Something like model.beam file. These are kind of files that are readable, that can help you to track history or something, changes that you've made or you've committed to your to your Power BI file or Power BI project. Now with Git, it makes it very easy to track changes in your PBIP format file. It helps you to collaborate with others and also manage version control in Power BI. So it's important for you to know that you can save your, just like the way in Excel, you can save your file in CSV, you can save your file in different kind of Excel file formats. That's the same way we can also save. So I think for Power BI there are three file formats. There's PBIX, which is the Power BI file. We have the Power BI template file, that's the PBIT, and we have the PBIP, which is the Power BI project file, right? So it is the Power BI project file that separates your different parts of your project, right? Your Power BI project that makes it readable, right? It makes it readable for version control, for also do version control inside of Power BI. Now, what is Azure DevOps? Or what is Azure DevOps Repo? No, I told you that GitHub, for example, is a cloud. You can create your own cloud repo on it where you have your project file saved online. The same thing also goes to Azure DevOps Repo too. Like with Azure DevOps, you can create your own. You can have your own cloud repo where you save in your project files in there. You make changes, you commit your changes, you can track the changes and generally do version control, right? Um, so Azure DevOps, right, is used by different organizations or teams to host Git repositories to review code. You can review, you can even compare your old version with your current version to see the changes, right? You can compare, you can review your code, right? You can manage project history, and it supports both Git and Team Foundation version control, right? Okay, let's go ahead. What is repository? We've been saying this morning, I've been saying repository, repo. What does that even mean? So think of repository as a folder where you have your project files and the different version history that is stored using Git, right? So that's repo. The way you have your local folder, you go to your file explorer, right, on your system, right, on your local computer. You open your file explorer, you store in different documents in there, right, and maybe you make changes to those documents. With the help of Git, it will be able to track which of the documents you made the changes to at what time and when, because there's Git at the back end that is being installed on your local system that can help you do version control, right? So think of uh, repository, right, as that folder, right? Although we now have local repo and cloud repo, so think of repository as a folder where you store in files. Let's make it as simple as possible, right? So when you save in your Power BI, your PBIX file as a PBIP, as a Power BI project file, right? You will see stuff like your PBIP file is going to be there, your JSON, your .ts, your model.beam, etc. In fact, you even see something called git ignore, right? That can help you ignore some changes that you don't want Git to keep track of those changes. I'm going to go into details of all of those things, right? Now, repository is the folder, right? You keep stuff. Now we now have the local repo. So the local repo is the one you have on your system, on your local computer, right? Where you create the project. And the good thing about local repo is that you can clone a folder from a cloud repo to your local repo. I'm still going to do a demo with you on that, and you will see how you can clone. Azure DevOps make this very easy peasy, right? Now, you're working on a Power BI project file on your local system. You saved it somewhere on one of the folders on your system, or you create a new folder to save in the Power BI project file or PBIX or whatever. That is your local repo. Now, your cloud repository, I can call it repo, I can call it repository. So you should understand what I mean, right? So a cloud repo, on the other hand, is a version of that your project that is on your local repo that now lives on the cloud, or that is now stored online, right? So when we say cloud repo, platforms that we can create cloud repository is GitHub that I've told you about before, Azure DevOps, your GitLab, right? You can push changes from your local repo down to your, from your cloud repo. You can push changes down to your local repo, and you can also commit changes on your local repo and push it to your cloud repo, right? So they both work hand in hand. Okay. Now, why is it that it's important for you to even know the tool, right? You make edits, you do edits, and you test it in your local repo. So that your cloud repo is like a backup, right? When you have a file saved on your local folder on your system, for example, and you now do a settings on your system such that every folder on your system, your computer, is syncing to your OneDrive. For example, now on my phone, I did the settings on my phone that every stuff I have on my phone is automatically syncing to my OneDrive. So if something happens to my phone today and my phone gets lost or it got damaged, for example, right, I'm still going to be able to retrieve all my files. So see your cloud repo as that backup online folder where if anything happens to your local repo, you are going to have a backup copy of as at when the damage happened, you are going to have a copy of your project file online, right? And you can always clone it back or restore, something like that. So think of it that way, right? So it's important because you need to collaborate with people, you need to work together, people in a team, right? So this setup of having local and cloud repo, it really matters because it helps you understand how the version control works and how you can push changes between the two, whether from cloud to local or from local to cloud. So right. So that is it. So it's to some extent it's let you know that your whatever you are doing, your work is safe, right? And you can track history and work together as a team. Now, what is commit? You heard terminologies like commit. What does that mean? A commit is like you saving a snapshot of your work. So I open my Power BI file now. I add in a new measure, or I create a new chart. I save it. Git will keep track of that. I commit that change. So when I mean commit change, it means that number one, I'll give that change a name, added maximum sales measure. I can put a description, you know, I added this so that blah blah blah, and I'm going to commit that. And when I commit that, Git will now track that change. That at also time I made this change, and the name of that change that I made is going to be there. I'm going to be committing. Committing is like you are saving it. That I'm saving the changes that I made to my project file. That is what commit is, right? So it records what changed and why. That's if you are putting the description, right? You can even add a message to say to give more description of what you have done, right? So think of it like you're saying save with comments, or save without comments, or save with a name. It's like you are having different versions of your file. Added this, remove this, added this layer, remove this layer, something like that, right? So when you commit, especially when you are using GitHub and you're doing stuff in your local repo, when you commit it, right, it commits that commit saves the change and gives that change a name or a description in your local repo, right? And it's not in your cloud yet until you push it to your cloud repo so that your cloud repo too can have the updated or the latest copy of your project file, right? Now push. After you have made the changes and you have committed the changes and Git has, keep track of the change and the name of that change that you have made, right? The next thing is for you to now push it to your cloud repo. Like I said earlier, right? Whether it's GitHub or whether it is your Azure DevOps repo, right? You push it there so that it will save the latest, it can keep track of the latest changes that you have made on your local repo. So the two sides can be updated, both local and your cloud repo. Now, after you commit, I said earlier, you push your changes from your local repo to your cloud repo. Now, pushing makes your changes visible to others. So I've made a change, but my other team members will not know that I've added something to my Power BI file or to my Fabric workspace. They would not know until I probably commit. Until I commit and I push that change to my cloud repo. That is when they will see when they are looking at the history and the different versions of my project file. My other team members will be able to see that I've made some changes, and they will see the changes I've made. They will see detailed information about the changes that I've made. Right. So that is when we push. We commit in our local repo and we push those, that commit to either by creating by committing it, by pushing it to the main branch, or we are probably we probably open a new branch or review. And we also don't let me go too far. I'm going to explain everything in detail so that you understand. Okay. Now, let's say you have a cloud repo, you make some changes in the cloud repo, and you now want to commit that change on your local repo. Now we use pull for that, right? In GitHub Desktop, we fetch. Fetch means that you want it to, load or refresh and see if there is any changes. And what fetch will do is fetch will compare what you have on your local repo, your files on your local repo, and your files on your cloud repo, and compare whether there's been a change from your cloud repo. You can fetch that and pull that to your local repo so that your local repo can also commit that change, right? So think of pull as you are downloading the latest version of your Word document, of your Excel document saved on a OneDrive, whether personal OneDrive or OneDrive for business, or let's say a SharePoint folder, right? So think of pull as you downloading the latest version of your file, right? Okay. Now, in summary, when we commit in our you can although we can commit both in local and cloud, but the way the flow usually goes is that you commit in your local, you commit locally in your local repo, and you push your changes to the cloud, right? And you can also pull from cloud to your local repo, right? Now, let's move to Azure DevOps. Now, we are going to do some tasks in Azure DevOps now, right? We are going to create what we call an organization. We are going to create a project, right? I will tell you the difference between creating a project that's going to be visible to the public, and private. I'm going to tell you the two difference between the two. We are going to initiate a main branch with a README or Git ignore, right? Now we are going to clone our Azure DevOps repo to a local repo. There are two ways: HTTPS and SSH, right? SSH means secure shell, right? Now, why is it even important for you to first create an organization in Azure DevOps? It's important because now see your everything in Azure DevOps must definitely belong to an organization. So see organization as what we call Power BI workspace in Power BI service, right? Where all your what's it called? Your semantic model, your PBIX file, your everything you do, like all your stuff have been saved in there, right? Or think of it like a Fabric workspace that you have your notebook, you have your data flow gen to everything inside of your, so think of organization like that container, that workspace. Think of it like that you store in all the pipelines, or your Azure DevOps pipelines, or your project files, or your users and permissions, and all of those things. So it's important. The first thing that you do is to create an organization. I told you that organization, think of it like a workspace that contains a lot of items, right? Okay. So why do we need to create an organization first? Because everything in Azure DevOps must belong to an organization. Right? Without organization, you can't create a project, you can't use a repo or pipeline, you can't invite team members to clone your cloud repository, right? You can't even set security or permission. So it's very important that the first thing that you do in your Azure DevOps is creating an organization. It's like you creating a Google Workspace, right? A Google Workspace account before you start creating documents and uploading stuff in there, right? Okay, let's go ahead. Now, what happens if you clone a repo at the project level without a main branch initialized? I'm still going to go into that, but let me stop sharing my screen for now. Let me open my browser, and I'm going to definitely open a new tab. I'm going to open a new tab. Please, on the comment section, please let me be sure that you can still see my screen, that you can see my browser screen. Okay, good. So I'm going to now uh, go to my Azure Dev. I already have it bookmarked here. So I'm going to click on Azure DevOps. Right. Now, this is my Azure DevOps account that I'm using at the moment for this demo. Right. And I'm going to first create, I told you that it's not going to create an organization first. So I'm going to click on create new organization. Right? It's going to tell me all of this introduction, blah, 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 get started. I'm going to click on continue, and I'm going to give my organization a name. So I can call it VC demo, that is version control demo, or VC underscore demo, for example, version control underscore demo. And because of my location is Canada, say we host your project in Canada, right? And I'm going to, oh, it said it's not valid. Maybe it doesn't allow an underscore. So let me just use VC demo, right? So I'm going to type in this one, DV, and I'm going to click on continue. The specified name is reserved. Okay, let me look for something else. VC demo 1. Let me try that. SHJRRQ. I pray this works. Okay, it looks like it's going to work. So it's loading. So let's wait for a few seconds for it to load. Now, after I've created my organization, that container that will contain all the items, right? The next thing is for me to create a project, create a project. So I have to give my project a name, right? So let me also call this project, let me call it demo. Let me just call it demo for version control. Right now, you see that there are two options there. Although my tenant settings, right, for the account that I'm using for this demo, does not allow me to, does not allow public visibility. It means that, like your GitHub now, you can make it public. You can make your repo to be public. It means that people can go there and download your project files. But my organizational settings is not allowing any public visibility. So I can only do private. Now, what's the difference between the private visibility and the public visibility is this. So if you're using public, it means that anyone on the internet can view the project, right? Certain features like team, version control are not supported. It means that you would, when you make public visibility for your project, you can do a team version control. But when you make it private, only people you give access will be able to view the project. Only those that you give access are going to be the one to be able to view the project, right? So that's different between the public and the private visibility, right? Let me just cancel this, and I'm going to click on create projects. So a new project is being created here. So now this is welcome to the project. I have, if you look at my left side here, for those that are just joining, this is Azure DevOps. This is the interface, right? You will see stuff like the project name here, overview, summary, dashboard, wiki, bots, repo, pipelines, test plans, artifacts. Now, where I'm going to here is repos. I'm going to click on repos, right? And now in my repo, I'm going to first initialize a main branch. Now, a main branch is the default branch, right? The main branch is the default branch. It means that before you start committing any changes to your project file, maybe your Power BI project file, for example, you need to first have a main branch, which is the default branch. That when you want to create a new a branch at first, what you will see is the main branch, right? So you scroll down to this down part here, and you will see initialize main branch with a readme or git ignore. So I'm going to click on initialize. There's some other options here, but I will leave that. And when I check this add a readme, that is the default file that's going to be there is the readme file. Something must be in your, in your initial branch, right? And I'm going to click on initialize. So if I go here and click on clone, when I have not created the main branch, there's going to be an issue. It's going to give me an error message. So it's important for you to first create your branch before you start making any changes or committing any changes to your project file. So I'm going to click on initialize, right? Now I have my main. So if you go to this upper part here, you would see main. You would see main, right? So this is, if I want to create another new branch, I'll come here and create the branch. But don't let me bore you with all of those things, right? So now that we have created our main branch, which is the default branch. Now the next thing that we are going to do now is to now clone this cloud repo to our local repo, right? To my local computer. So what I'm going to do now is, now if you click on clone here, you will see that I talked about two options. So let me go back to my slide. I talked about two options. I talked about um, HTTPS and SSH. I called it's called secured shell, right? Now, these two are different, and the setup also is different, right? In terms of what and what do I mean? Now, if I'm clicking on HTTPS, right, I will need to generate Git credentials, right, for me to authenticate and for my cloud repo that I created on Azure DevOps here to clone to my local repo, right? So I'm going to need to create Git credentials. Now, for SSH, the setup is different, although I've not used secured shell before anyway, but I know that for beginners, it's better to use HTTPS, right? It's easier to set up. All you need is your generate Git credentials, right? Now, when I click on that generate credentials, to give me a username and a password that I can use to authenticate that link between my cloud repo and my local repo. Now, I while working on this, I faced the challenge, right? Let me go back again and click on clone. When I click on generate Git credentials, I noticed that it was throwing out some error message. So there are sometimes that your organization settings or your project settings can limit you not to generate Git credentials. So how are you going to be able to solve that? I'm going to show you now before I go ahead. So you go to project, is it project settings? You will go to this your organization name, right? Where I have it, I can right click and say open in a new tab. And when I go there, I will see organization settings, right? You will go to organization. Shout out to Ayobami, he was the one that helped me on this. So you go to organization settings here, you click on it, right? And you will go to policies under security. You see all the likes of global notification billing, users project, and all of it. The security boards and pipelines. You go to policies, right? And when you get to policy, so I'm going to do something now that you guys are going to see, right? I'm going to restrict personal access token. I'm going to switch it on, right? And I click on save. Now, when I go back to my repo, and maybe let me just refresh this page. Let me refresh this page, and I click on clone, and I want to probably clone, and I click on generate Git credentials. You will see that it's going to throw an error message. It's not going to generate the Git credentials for me, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to probably go to my settings and switch off the strict personal access token, right? Personal access token. I'm going to switch that off. And when I go back again to my repo, and I refresh, and I refresh, and I click on clone again, and I click on generate credentials. Now you see that I generated Git credentials for me. So this is just to show you that in case that happens to you, all you need to do is to go to the organization settings and go to policies and switch off the restrict personal access token creation. Very important, right? Okay, good. Now that we understood up to this point, I will encourage you guys to click on the subscribe button so that you can enjoy more Power BI content like the one you are currently watching. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting learning Power BI together. So click on the subscribe button so that you can get notification when I probably post new videos on Power BI. Okay, now that we understand this, so the next thing we're going to do is to open my GitHub Desktop. To download GitHub Desktop, you just have to go to Google, type in GitHub Desktop, and you will see a link for you to download the setup file and you install. Right, so I'm going to open GitHub Desktop. I'm going to open my GitHub Desktop. It's going to be a few seconds for it to come up. Now, this is my GitHub Desktop. This is my GitHub Desktop, and I want to clone a new repository. A new repository. Right? So I want to clone the Azure DevOps Repo to my local system. So I'm going to click on File here. On the menu item here, I'm going to click on File in my GitHub Desktop, and I'm going to click on Clone Repository. I'm going to be clicking on Clone File, Clone Repository, and I'm going to go to URL here. Now I will go back to my Azure DevOps, right? And I click on clone. I will use the HTTPS, and I'm going to copy this link that has provided for me. I'll go back to my GitHub desktop, and I'll paste the link, right? And it's creating this for me under documents. I'm going to go to choose file, and I'm going to probably go to desktop. I'm going to go to desktop, and I'm going to create a new folder here. I'm going to create a new folder here, and I'm going to save this under, so I can call this new folder. Let me give it a name. I can say local repo for version control demo. Right? I'm going to save this, and I'm going to click on select folder. So you must create a folder where you want to clone the project files or the files you are bringing from your Azure DevOps repo, right? I'll click on select folder. I'll click on select folder here. I'll click on select folder here. So I've chosen my folder, right? And I can now click on clone. So to load for a few seconds and to ask me for the password. So I'm going to go back to my Azure DevOps, and I'll click on generate Git credentials, and I'm going to copy this password. I minimize again, I paste it here, and I'm going to click on OK. I'm going to click on OK. Just wait for a few seconds for the cloning to happen. Few seconds. Guys, I would like your comments. I like to see your comments in the comment section if you are enjoying the section. If there's any topic, but if there's any area particularly we want to talk about, please let me know. Okay, I don't know why this is taking time. Just wait a few more seconds. Okay, so now you can see that the uh, it has created a local repo for you based on what you have cloned from your Azure DevOps repo. So this is it. So this is GitHub. It gives you that interface for you to interact with your local repo, commit your changes. Git is making those changes at the back end. So, guys, you need to install Git. So go on Google, type Git, download Git and install. Download your GitHub Desktop and install. Those two things are important. And also, some people like to use Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is more robust, right? Even if you want to connect, you want to clone using secured shell, right? Visual Studio Code, gives you that gives you that flexibility, right? If you want to use SSH to clone, right? But the why I love for beginners, why I would prefer you to start with GitHub Desktop before Visual Studio Code is because I'm sorry, GitHub Desktop is more easy to use for beginners. By the time you start getting familiarized and you start improving your skill, then you can now start using. It's not like that is a roadmap. It's just from my own personal point of view that if we want to start doing version control and you want to learn, you want to practice, you can start with GitHub Desktop, and by the time you get you improve on your skills, then you can start using the Visual Studio Code. So let me go ahead. So now that I have this, now if I go to my file explorer here and I go to desktop, you will see that I will see that my folder. When I double click here, you will see that it has created that folder for me. So you will see the readme file that I cloned from the Azure DevOps repo. You will see that readme file inside my local folder here. So this is my local repo. You see that it is very interesting, right? Now, what I'm not going to do is what I'm going to do next is this. If I save a file, so let's say, let me go back and click on desktop. If I go to that my local repo that I have on my local computer here, and I probably create a new file, I right click and I click on new, and I probably did something like maybe I created a new Word document. I just click on new Word document, and I call it sales Word document, Word doc, something like that, for example, right? And I enter, I have a new file here. Now, when I go to my GitHub desktop, what did you see? It's telling me here that I made a change. And when I click on, look at the change, one changed file. What's the name of the file? Sales Word doc, the same file that I just created now. It's telling me that I created something, right? Now, but my Azure DevOps would not automatically get that update. So let me go back to my Azure DevOps now and refresh on this page. You see that the only file that I have is still my README file. So for the fact that you made a change in your local repo, your cloud repo doesn't automatically get it. Although there are more advanced ways to do version control. That with something they call GitHub Action and all of those stuff that can, and when you create GitHub pipeline, that automatically you can also your cloud repo can it's a change, is a way to create a pipeline that even your cloud repo can get the latest update from what you are doing inside your local repo. Is very, very possible, right? But this is for beginners. We don't really want to go into too many advanced stuff today. It's just for me to introduce you to the world of version control. So my cloud repo here, it's the Azure DevOps repo here, does not automatically get the changes that I've made in my. So until I commit and push, I'm not going to show you how to do that commit and push now. So I minimize this. I'm back here. It's telling me I made a change. I can just even ignore the change and say discard change. I'm not discarding this. So I'll come here and say added, added, added Word document. I can put the description here to say the Word document, the Word document contain, the Word document contain sales records, for example. So I'm putting the description and I say commit. Commit is like I'm saving that change. The change that I've made by creating a new Word document inside of that my local repo folder. I'm now committing it. I'm saving that change with a name, right? And I say commit one file to main, commit one file to main, right? Don't forget that when we created our project, we created the repo by initializing, with a readme document in our main branch in our Azure DevOps repo. Now, and I've made the changes, right? I've committed the changes rather. Now, for my Azure DevOps to get the latest updates that I have now, I have to push it to my cloud repo, which is the Azure DevOps repo. So I'm going to click on push origin. I'm going to click on push origin. Push origin. I will have to wait for it to refresh. Push origin. Now it has pushed that changes now. Now, when I now go to my Azure DevOps now, when I go to my Azure DevOps now, and I refresh this page, I'm going to now see the Word documents that I created locally. I'm now seeing it in my Azure DevOps repo from local to cloud. You see the way it works now, from local to cloud, right? So now this is to tell you that this is the way it works. You make the change, you commit the change, you push the change to the origin. Origin is, that we started creating the repo from Azure DevOps. So that is called origin. So I push it to the origin, to the main branch, which is the default branch that we have here. And I can see the same thing I have on my local repo. I can see it now in my cloud repo. Now let's now say that same Word document. I go inside the document. I open the document, for example. I open the document. Let me bring it to my screen here. I open that document and I probably type in something. This is sales record for 2025, and I save it, right? And I close the file, right? And I close it. Now, when I go back to it's telling me that I made a change. You can click here. You can, and I double click it opened the file. That's not what I want. Let me close this back. Okay. So it's telling me that something changed, right? I made a change. So I'm just going to type in there, I would say updated the sales doc file. I will say that I'm committing the changes that I made. I'm committing that change. I'm saving it, right? And I'm going to say commit. Updated the sales doc file, and I click on commit, right? When I click on commit again, I can also still push it to my origin remote, which is the Azure DevOps repo, and I click on push origin, right? And I'm going to click on push origin. And when that is done, when I go back again to my Azure DevOps repo, I'm going to see it there. So I can minimize this. I can go back to my Azure DevOps now, and I can refresh this again. And when I go to my history, you will see all the things I've done. You see now, when I added README, that was the initial when I was creating the default branch, the main branch. Look at the next thing I did. I added Word documents, right? That is the second commit that I did. The third commit was I updated the sales stuff. So you see that with Azure DevOps, you can actually track record of the changes that you have made to your files, right? And when I go back here to the contents, I can probably, let me click on this, and you will see that you can even download the file from here. So it means that your teammates, your team members can download the file. You can go to history here, you'll see the changes that I've done. This one was to add, it's an add change. This one was editing. I edited the files, so committed it again. Now compare, right? You can do a comparison. Just hold on for me, guys. You can do a comparison. So this is, you can download the original file, you can download the modified one. You see how interesting this is? Like, you would even have the opportunity to download the original file, right? And you will also have the opportunity to even download the modified one. Isn't this not interesting? This is very interesting. Now, if you click on blame, right, this will tell you the person that break the. I don't know what it is, because I'm on a maybe because it's a file, it's not showing me. You'll be able to see the person who committed the change with the date and the time, right? So this is the history and this is the content. Interesting, interesting, interesting. This is the default file that we have here. Now, let's now go to why we are here today. So I have a file, I have a folder. Sorry, I have a Power BI file rather. Just hold on for me. So I have a folder here called sales for version control. So just hold on for me, guys. Let me minimize this. I'm going to bring it to my second screen here. So this is the Power BI file. So let me open the file here. Let me open the Power BI file here for you to see. I hope you guys are enjoying the section. So I have opened it here. Just wait for a few seconds. I think I like the new way Power BI is loading now. It's fun and it's interesting. Okay, this is the Power BI file that I have here. Just wait for a few seconds for this to open. Please let me know if you can still see my screen. You can see my Power BI screen. Okay. The Power BI file. Yeah, so the Power BI file has opened. Okay, good, 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 good. Let me expand this one. Good. So let's say this is my, my visualization, and you will see the different charts that I have here, the different metrics that I'm tracking here. Everything is looking good. The next thing that I'm going to do here now is I'm going to create probably a new measure. I'm going to create a new measure. So I have my total quarter to date and I have my total year to date. So let me create a new measure for total month to date. So I'll say new measure for my calculations. I say new measure, and I'm going to create a new measure for my month to date. And I'll use total instead of using calculate and you know dates MTD. I'm going to use total MTD. So I'm going to call it total MTD. Total MTD is month to date is equals to total MTD, right? My sales, total sales measure, and my calendar dates. Good. Is to get my total month to date. So I have added a new measure, right? Oh, before I do this, oh, I'm sorry guys, I made a mistake. Let me delete that measure. I'm going to recreate it later. So let me delete from the model. So what I'm going to show you guys in this part here is for us to be able to do version control on our Power BI file, we need to save it as a PBIP, which is a Power BI project file. So I'm going to click on save it. But before I click on save, before I save it as a PBIP, there's a settings that you need to do. Very important setting. You go to file here. You go to file here. You go to options and settings, right? You click on options. And when you get to that interface, you are going to click on preview features. Preview features. Just hold on while that's loading. It's going to come up in a few seconds now. You see it, yeah. So you see options here, and you go to preview features here. Then you make sure that you checkbox this part that shows. Let me expand it so you can see clearly. That shows where is that Power BI projects PBIP save option. Make sure you checkbox this before you try to save as a project file. Or else, if you don't do that, you probably will not see your model does beam file by the time you save as PBIP. So guys, please make sure you check this under preview features before you go ahead to save. So I'm going to close this now. It's just to show you file, and I go to save as, and I browse this device. So let me save this under my desktop folder under the file I created, the local repo stuff that I created for version control demo. So I'm going to be saving this inside the folder here, right? And I'm going to come here and change this to PBIP. I'm going to change this to PBIP. So I click on this and change to PBIP, and I'm going to save. Now the way it's not going to save it like the way you see your. It's going to make it readable. It's going to turn it to readable file. Something readable, shareable, that you can use for version control. We can't use PBIX for version control, but we can use PBIP because it's going to separate it into JSON, text, model, beam, and all of those kind of different file types. Then you can now do version control on your Power BI project. Interesting stuff, right? So I'll click on save. I've chosen, see the different file options, PBIX, PBIT, and PBIP. I'll click on PBIP, which is the Power BI project file, and I'm going to click on save. Don't forget that I'm saving it inside that folder that I cloned from my cloud repo. So it's saving as PBIP now. Now, after it has finished saving as PBIP, something will change in the details you have here. When you go here now, right, see that it has now changed. Instead of PBIX, it's now showing Power BI project. That's what you're seeing now. Power BI project, right? Power BI project. Now, we can now start making our changes now, right? Now, let me go back to my local repo. What do you see now, guys? You see that what we are seeing now is different. It's not like a regular PBIX file. When I save that Power BI project file, this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing the PBIP file itself. I'm seeing the git.ignore. I'm simply will tell you what this does. You are seeing the semantic model folder that will now have your model.bin file where that holds the structure of your data model, all your measures, your transformations, all the data types that you have configured, all your connection, everything you see there under the model.bin file. So these are the different file types that your Power BI is going to turn into by the time you save it as a Power BI project file, as a PBI, it's a PBIP. You see this definition, platform, and all of those things. These are different types of. Now, when you go to your report, this is your report, right? You will see definition, you will see static resources, the platform, definition, blah, blah, blah. So pages, version, reports, and a whole lot of JSON and the text files and all of those things is what you are going to be seeing when you save your PBIX as PBIP. Interesting. I hope you are enjoying. Please let me see your comments, please. I would like to see you on the comment section. Let me know if you are enjoying this section, or let me know if I'm too fast or there's something that you need me to go back and talk about. Thank you guys for staying by. Okay, now that we have saved as PBIP, the next thing that we are now going to do is, because anytime we make a new change, we have to commit, but it's not all the changes that you commit. I'm still going to explain that part to you. So when I go back to my GitHub Desktop now, it's telling me 82 changed files. I've added this file, all these files, because I saved my PBIX as PBIP. So I'm going to come here and I will now say added PBIP, right? I will now say I saved sales report PBIX as PBIP, so that they will know at what stage and when. Another thing I want to also tell you is this. Some people will be like, oh, my GitHub credentials, must it be the same credentials with my Azure DevOps Repo? It means that must I use the email I'm using for my Azure DevOps Repo to open my Azure DevOps rather as the same email I'm using for my GitHub account or my GitHub? No, it doesn't have to be the same, right? So far, you have the credentials that will help you in authenticating and link stuff up together. It doesn't matter whether it's a different account that you're using. So I need to clear that, right? But if you are working as a team, an organization, it is the best practice to use the same email credentials for different stuff that you're using together. So added PBIP, I'm going to commit 82 files to main. I'm going to commit 82 files to main, right? Just give me a second, guys. Okay. And it is committing. Interesting. So let me just give it a few seconds. Now, done. Now, you know that I told you that my Azure DevOps will not see it automatically, that I've done that. So I need to push to origin. I need to push. Now, after pushing, when I refresh my Azure DevOps again, I'm going to see all those Power BI projects file. I'm going to see them in my Azure DevOps Repos also. So it's still, oh, what did I click on? Fetch. Oh, sorry about that. So I'm going to go back here to I have to refresh this page. And now I'm going to see all the files, my Power BI project files. I'm seeing them now. If I open my semantic model folder, you will see my model.beam. Oh, interesting. You'll see all the structure of my model, my measure, my everything. So let me look for a measure. So I have a measure called total YTD from my Power BI. You see the measure now. See, this is the name of the measure. Let me expand this that you guys can see clearly. This is the name of the measure. Interesting. This is the data type of that measure, right? Is in number, numeric number. That is like whole number, right? If it's decimal, it's going to tell me that it's decimal, right? And you see the expression. The expression, my DAX expression is total YTD open bracket total sales calendar date. So for all my measures, I'm going to see the expression, the name, and the data type. So the model.bin file holds that structure of my data model. You know, when we talk of semantic model in Power BI, semantic model is the data itself, the transformations, the relationship, and the calculations. Those four things, right, make up semantic model. So you will see all of the structure in your model.bin file. You see other stuff like your .json, .text. There are different other files that you have that host different parts of the entire structure of your Power BI reports that you have in Power BI Desktop, right? So that is that. Now, the wonderful. Okay, don't let me even go there yet. Let me open back the project, the PBIP file, and let me create a new measure. And I'm going to say new measure, and I'm going to create my total month to date now. Total month to date now. I'm going to create that. I'm going to create that. So just give me a few seconds while this is loading, and I will say total MTD, right, is equals to total MTD open bracket my total sales. That is my what's it called? That is my total month to date uh that spell that's formula and calendar dates, and I close my brackets and I press enter and I have my oh okay it's loading. Just wait for a few seconds. I don't know why this is slow. I think I need to optimize this Power BI report. So let's wait for a few seconds. Loading. Okay, I have it now. Then I have it here. Then when I click on save, when I save this PBIP file, and I go back to my GitHub desktop, you will see that it will tell me that I've made a change. Oh, let me go back. Yeah, good. It will tell me that I made a change. See, if I click on the change, you will see that it's telling me that I added a new measure. I added a new measure. So I'm going to say to my commit, and I'll name it added total MTD, total month to date. And I commit. And I commit this, and I probably, and I probably push to origin. I'll push that to my Azure DevOps repo, right? I'll push that, right? Now wait for few seconds. I think that is done. And when I now go back to my Azure DevOps and I refresh this page, right? And if I now do a search here, oh, sorry, I made a mistake. I'm supposed to press Control Find, and I now type total MTD. You see that now I can see the new measure that I just created. Is this not interesting to you? Very, very interesting, right? Very interesting, right? So as I created a new measure in my PBIP file, I saved it, I committed it in my GitHub desktop, I pushed it to origin, and now I can see the latest updates that is happening in my local folder. I can see it also in my cloud repo here. Interesting. Another interesting thing is that you can also create a new measure inside of this place. Use your GitHub desktop to fetch any new changes from your cloud repo and also commit that change, right? And commit that change to your local repo, and you see it inside of here. So let's go to my Power BI desktop, for example. So let's say I want to create a measure. Let me go here and see the measure I can create. Let me go here and see if there's a new measure I can create. Let me go to my dimension tables and let me do something interesting here. I will say when postal code ID is equals to, or when postal code is 55901. Let me write that down. 55901. Let me open my notepad. I'm going to write a measure in my Azure DevOps. I'm going to commit it, and we are going to see what's going to happen. So come here and say 55901, and let me look at the data type. Let me look at the data type here. For this column is a whole number. Interesting. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a calculate and say calculate total sales, filter the sales table where the postal code is equals to 55901. What is equals to 55901. Interesting, guys. Interesting. Let's go ahead. So the next thing that I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my Azure DevOps and I'll click on edit. Yeah, I'm editing my model.bin file. So what I need to do is this. I don't need to trouble myself at all. I'm just going to copy the one I just created, the sample one I just created here. I'll just copy this, right? I'll copy this one. Or if I don't want to copy this one, let me copy another one, the YTD. Okay. So now you will see that apart from the project, the measure name, total YTD, expression type, the expression, the data type rather, and the name, you see what is called a lineage tag. For every of the elements that you have in your Moodle.bin file, this will have what we call a lineage tag. Now, the one problem will happen if I try to, how am I going to say this? If I copy a measure, because of the structure, I don't want to start typing stuff myself. If I copy the measure and I paste it and I did not change the lineage tag, it's going to throw an error when I open the PBIP file. It's going to throw an error, right? Because two elements like your measures cannot share the same lineage tag. They cannot share the same lineage tag, right? So it's important for you to know that. So I'm going to copy this now. I'm going to copy this. I'm trying to be fast because of time. I'm going to probably come here and paste it here. And I'm going to change the measure name to 55901 sales. 55901 sales, right? 55901 sales. That's the name of my measure. That's the name of the. So for my expression here, so my expression is going to be something like this. It's going to be calculate. Just the way you write it in your Power BI. See that you're even seeing your intelligence the way you see it in your Power BI desktop. Calculate total sales, right? Calculate total sales. I will then say filter, open bracket, sales, the sales table, right? Am I correct with what I'm doing here? The sales table when the postal code. So let me just type in this stuff myself. So it's going to be something like sales, right? Sales, square brackets. No, not sales now. What table is that? Is it the geography table or what table? Let me go back. That is the geography. geography, then postal code column. Okay. So filter, filter geography, right? Filter geography. When geography, geography postal code is equals to 55901, and I close bracket, and I close bracket again. I hope this is correct. This is the way I'm supposed to write it. Um, let me go back. Let me go back because the intelligence there is not 100% correct. Like the way you have it here. Just hold on for me, guys. So let me act like I want to. Oh, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? Let me cancel this. Let me delete. Just hold on for me, guys. I want to create a measure inside of Azure DevOps and push it, and you will see the measure appear in my Power BI desktop here. It's possible that I cancel this. Just hold on for me. I don't know why this is slow. Okay. It's taking so much time. Okay, now I'll click on oh, still working. Right click, new measure. I'm not going to type in like save the measure here. So what I'm going to do is to just try to write it here just to make sure that what I'm writing over there is correct. So we just want to test something out. Equals to calculate total sales, right? And I'll say filter geography table. Okay, correct. I think I'm correct there. When postal code in geography is equals to, yeah, I think I'm correct. It's just to test out what I'm doing. Okay. 559901. Like, oh, perfect. So let me cancel this. I don't need this. I don't need this. I don't need this. I don't need this. It's just for me to test something else. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my Azure DevOps now. And we have calculate total sales, filter geography postal code equals to this, right? And for the lineage tag, there's a website you say generate GUI or GUID, right? And you click on that, it will, can help you generate random, what's it called, random lineage tag. So you generate GUID, right, and you copy to clipboard. You can go back to your model.bin file now, and instead of using the one you, because the one I pasted here is the one from Total YTD, and they cannot, two measures cannot have the same lineage tag. So you have to change, you have to generate a new lineage tag, or else your Power BI file will not open, right? So I come here, I cancel the one I have here, and I paste the new one that I just copied. Everything looks good. Everything looks good, guys. Everything looks good. Now, before I see the change, the only issue here is that I have to close my Power PBIP file and reopen. That's the only challenge now. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to close this. and I save the file. I'll save the file. Now, when I go back to my GitHub Desktop, because I saved the file, it might show something here like I made changes. Oh, it's not even showing it yet. Right? Okay, it's not showing it. So sometimes when you save the file, it might show something like you made a change, but you didn't actually make any change. It was because you saved the PBIP file, and it's now showing you change file. So you can just add that to your gig.ignore to ignore that change, or you can discard changes from here, right? So after I've created a new measure in my what's it called? In my Azure. Okay. Now, what did I do? I added I added sales for 55901 postal code. 559. This is going to be in the main branch, and I click on commit like this, and I commit it. When I commit, my what's it called? My local repo or my Power BI file is not going to automatically get this. So I have to go back to my GitHub desktop here. And for me to see the changes from the Azure from my cloud repo, I have to click on fetch origin here. So it will go to your cloud repo and go and check whether there's a new changes that you made. Oh, it's telling me that there's one commit that happened in the cloud repo, and I'm going to say pull origin. When I pull and I open back my Power BI file, I will see that new measure there now. So I click on pull origin and I open back the PBIP file. Be patient with me, guys. I don't know why my okay. Then I open the PBIP file now, and I'm going to see the measure there. So let's wait for a few seconds for this to open. Wait for a few seconds for this to open. Okay, it's open, it's open, it's open, it's open. Just wait for more few seconds. Please, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please try and subscribe for you to enjoy more Power BI content. Thank you. Okay, the file is opening now, and you are going to see the new measure that I just created in my Azure DevOps. You are going to see it inside of this Power BI file. So just wait a little. Just to show up. Perfect. So when I go to calculations, interesting part, I created a measure inside of Azure DevOps. I committed it and pushed it back to my local repo. And now you can see the measure. Interesting. See what I created inside of Azure is now in my Power BI Dex, in my Power BI project file. See it here. See it here. Interesting, guys. Interesting, right? So it means that if somebody makes a changes in your team and they commit the change, and you can fetch and pull back to your local repo for you to have the updated Power BI project file. Interesting, interesting. There's something I want to show you guys. For those that joined this call, somebody reached out to me that she is a good data governance specialist and she wants to know how this version control, Git, and all of those things, how they relate to data governance. Now, in your Azure DevOps, there's something you can do to protect your main branch in such a way that people are not just going to be committing and committing and committing changes to the main branch. you want to protect that branch, right? So what you can do, I'm going to be very fast in this area. You're going to go to project settings. I'll open that in a new tab, project settings, and you go to repos. Under the repos section, you go to repositories, and when you go to repositories, you click on this particular repository that you have. You see settings, you can scroll down or go to policies. Is it under policies? Yeah. So under branch policies, right here. So you can do it in such a way that people are not going to be able to just be committing changes as they like, and it's not going to be causing a lot of conflict. You can control that. And all you can do is to go to your project settings that I showed you, repositories, you click on the name of your repo, and you go to branch policies. When you go to branch policies, you click on branch policies, you click on the main branch that you have here, right? And you scroll down, you will see automatically included reviewers. So I have to add a reviewer. It means that when anybody commits a change, instead of that change sinking into the main branch, the reviewer will see it, compare the current version with the new version that you are proposing, and they'll be able to approve that change, or they can even choose to disapprove it, right? So, but the issue is that when they disapprove, that does not change what you have. What is going to happen is that it's going to create another commit that will actually remove or revert back that change. Don't let me bore you guys with that. So I'll just click on it under automatically included reviewers. I'll click on this plus sign, and I'm going to add this account that I'm using for this demo. I'm going to add it. I'll click on required, then I'll click on save. So you can add as many people under reviewer, right? You can add as many people as possible. Now, approvers and checks. So I just have to go to our be on policy here. Now, this is now what will happen. If I now make a change here, if I now make a change, right? So assuming I'm making a change to maybe probably I'm creating, or maybe let me just rename this total MTD. Let me just rename it to, let me just add something in front of it, and I'm going to save total MTD. I call it total MTD1, and I commit this, and I save this file because we're still processing it, still saving, and I click on save here, right? And I click on save here. Okay, and I click on save here, and I go back to my GitHub Desktop. It's telling me that I made a change. I can see the changes that I made here. It was formerly called, what's it called? Total MTD. I now change it to total MTD4, right? So I now want to update it. I'll now say modified total. Maybe you guys can still hear me. Okay. Okay. So now I have modified my total MTD measure. And if I now try to commit, if I commit here and I try to now push it, if I try to push it, it's going to do what? It's going to show me error. It's going to probably show me error, right? So what I'm going to do now is that before I can't commit any change to branch again because I protected branch. So what I'm going to now do, is that for me to commit any change, I have to create a new branch. I'll create a new branch. and I will call this one, maybe I can call this branch 2. Create the branch. Right. So I've created. I'm now any changes I make now. It will be in branch 2, right? It will be in branch 2, and I can now publish. I can publish branch. I can publish branch. Now, when I go back to my Azure DevOps, I go back to my Azure DevOps, and I probably refresh this. Right? I will now go to pull requests. You can see mine pull requests. So the person is going to open in the person that wants to push the commit the changes is going to probably create a pull request here, right? I said modify total MTD measure, right? And I'm going to click on create. So the person would have to wait until an approval is done. So if I am the repo, little as hanging, approve here, right? Just wait for little seconds. Let me refresh this page again. Please let me know if you guys can still hear me. Okay. So I've approved this pull request. Then after approving, I need to click on complete. Now, there are some options here. Complete associated tasks, associated work items after merging, or delete branch 2 after merging. So I can delete that branch. Maybe I only need that branch because I want it to sync to the main branch. So I can still be using that branch to commit my other changes if I want to. So I click on delete branch 2 after merging, right? I'm not deleting that branch, so I'm still using the branch. So let me leave the branch the way it is. And I click on complete merge. So it's going to merge the changes, it's going to merge it to the main branch. It's going to merge to the main branch. So when I now go back to my repo here, and I go to my semantic model, my model.bin file, I can now do a search. I can do a search. Oh, why am I pressing Control S instead of Control F? Sorry, guys. My total MTD will now have 1 in front of it. So I've committed. So that is the part of data governance here. You can protect the main branch. People don't just go there and commit and start committing changes. You can protect it in such a way that they will not be able to do that. And also the other part that relates to data governance is your organization settings. You can switch off. You can disallow your developers to create personal access token, and there's a whole lot of other security settings that can be done, data protection security settings that can be done on the at the organization settings level, and even at the project settings level at the same time. And one of the examples that I've done here is, protecting your main branch, right? So that is that. I'm also going to show you guys something interesting. Let's open Fabric. So you can do a Git integration, right, on your Fabric workspace. So this is my workspace now is empty. But if I want to integrate my Fabric workspace with Git, I'm going to go to workspace settings here, right? I'm going to click on workspace settings here, and I'm going to go to Git integration, right? And let me first disconnect workspace, disconnect like this. So let me show you this is what it will look like the first time. When you go to your, let me go back again. When you go to your Fabric workspace here, you go to workspace settings here, and you go to Git integration, and you click on Azure DevOps. And to bring out your account, your Azure Active Directory account AAD, you're going to connect. Which of the organization, VC Demo 1, which of the projects, it is demo for version control, and the Git repository is demo for VC, and which of the branch. If I choose main branch, it's not going to give me the updated stuff because I now have a new branch. So I prefer to click on branch 2, right? And I'll connect and sync. And I'll connect and sync, right? So let's give it a few seconds for it to sync. Let's give it a few seconds for it to sync, right? Hold on, guys. While it's still syncing. So you see that the semantic model, I can now see it, right? I can see the semantic model now, right? So I can minimize this. Just hold on for me, guys. Okay, so you see that I have the report. I did not publish the report, oh guys. I did not publish that report. I have the report there, and I have the semantic model synced in my Fabric workspace just because I did Git integration, right? Now, another wonderful thing about this stuff is that if I create a new item, so it's syncing with my Azure DevOps, right? If I create, maybe I create a notebook. I click on notebook here. If I create a notebook here, right? If I create a notebook, I don't even need to put anything inside the notebook. I just create the notebook, and I go back to my workspace here, skip tour. It's showing that my notebook has not been integrated. Like, it's not syncing to my Azure DevOps yet. So you see under source control here, you click on source control. You click on source control here, and you select the file under width of the branch 2, and you commit it, and you commit the changes. And by the time you go back to your Azure DevOps repo, you are going to see that your notebook also part of. So whatever you're doing on your Fabric workspace is syncing to your Azure DevOps repo. So I'll go back to my Azure DevOps repo now. I'm going to refresh my project, right? Just give me a few seconds. It's still loading. I'm looking for the notebook I just created. Right. So let me refresh it again. Oh, this is not the branch 2. Oh, sorry. So when I go to branch 2, you see the notebook that I just created. You see the notebook that I just created. So guys, this is the end of my demo version control for beginners. Thank you so much, guys, for joining the call. I appreciate you for staying by. Don't forget to like this video, make it put your comments, and subscribe. I'm going to see you guys